Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show.
Good mornings.
No.
Okay, just mornings then.
Is that your phone?
Oh, yeah, because it's still saying that you're calling on my phone. Like, normally when I answer on the laptop, it'll disappear off the phone, but it just decided not to do it, apparently.
Apparently not. What did you send that says cat with a book?
You're welcome.
It's a picture of death scribbling. Yeah, that's going in my journal. That? Yeah. That is definitely me with the book.
Holy shit.
Huh.
Sorry. Guy I knew in high school, he basically joined the Navy and then married his high school sweetheart that they were on and off again for like all of high school.
Right.
Ended up having 2 kids together. Apparently they got divorced recently. He's in a whole new relationship.
Oh, good for him. Happy for him.
Well, yes, like, but I'm just like, what the hell? Because he popped up in my Facebook memories and I was like, oh, I wonder how he's doing, because we're no longer friends on Facebook. And I was like, okay, and I'm like, holy shit, I have missed out on a lot.
Seriously. I love, what is it? Nurse John.
Yes.
So, I've been working on that felted stocking. Let me move this closer. For my niece. And I was like, hey, Speedy, what do you want for Christmas? Thinking she wants something sweet or something like that. Because she's still young,
Yeah.
Money. Okay. What to wear? How about Sephora? Are you okay? Yeah, you can give me a Sephora gift card. But, I really want money to Lululemon. I was like,
oh, God, that's so expensive.
Yeah, everybody's getting 25 for Christmas. That way nobody can be like, he got more.
Right, that's the best way to do it.
So we did get a comment for the most recent episode. Hold on, let me pull it up.
The Texas episode? That's
No,
posted
the
Friday?
Krampus.
Oh, okay.
An Exorcism by Knives, Krampus, and Violent Night. Oh my, this was an awesome episode from Donnie D.
Oh, Donnie Don Don Don.
Donnie Don 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 Don. We love Donnie Don. Yeah, we try to record these like a month in advance, guys, because editing a podcast takes hours.
Sometimes it takes a couple of days.
Well, my computer decided to freak out because with the external hard drive, I have to take the episode out, save it onto my desktop, save the songs and the sounds to my desktop, export everything that I need to use, remove the external device, then edit it. See, if I try to edit it, I lose everything.
We don't like that.
So there was a 2-hour episode, which is the, I think it was the Texas episode. It was like an hour and a half, and I started editing it, and I lost all of my edits, all of everything, and I was scream crying. And Rachel's like, just put it away. Put it away.
You're done for the day. That is enough.
You're on timeout. And I was like, but look at all this work I did. I understand. You did all of this work. I'm Lilo, though. But yeah, so, be patient with us.
It's been a week, guys.
It's been a week. been a...
Like, it just being a full moon on top of everything. It's just
Oh,
been...
God.
That was just the icing on it.
And then I found that wolf spider in the kitchen.
I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually. It just...
I mean, I found a couple of spiders
happened to
around
be
the house.
today.
Right. It happened to be the day of the full moon, which was... The full moon spans for 3 days, so it's 2 days before and 2 days after.
Roughly,
Everybody
yeah.
doesn't know that, so I always leave my water out for like 4 or 5 days. So it gets supercharged.
Yes, but leading up to it, it just... Oh, it was chaotic and not at all in the good way.
I mean, some good chaos is good.
Yes, this was just absolutely horrendous chaos.
This was... I did not ask for this.
No, I did not want this kind of chaos at all.
No. But we are back to our regularly scheduled bullshit.
Yes.
So
our weekly bullshit.
Our weekly bullshit. That means we're going from spooky. Well, no, we can't say that anymore. Haunted, scary stuff to now murderous and haunted, scary stuff.
Yes.
So I
just want to say that I absolutely love the cushion that you gave me the link for.
The butt cushion?
Yes.
It's so comfy.
It just made things so much better.
For your booty?
Yes.
Okay, I can't read it on my phone. I'm trying to not use my computer for it, but, alas, here we are.
It happens. Scrolling through Facebook timeline, and the person that I'm in a group with posted a meme that says, "Wow, you're up early." Yeah, I didn't go to bed.
That was me when I was living in the apartment.
Yeah, that was me before I switched my days off. It was always a haha, I haven't gone to bed yet.
Oh.
So whatever chaos you get out of my mouth is what you get.
What we get, and I'm totally fine with that.
And now it's well-rested chaos, and you still get what you get that comes out of my mouth.
So this time last year, I had a hole in my ceiling that I told my landlord about, that I knew there was a hole because I could hear things coming in and out of the ceiling because my bed was right next to the window. So,
of course,
I decided, because it was the change of seasons, I rearranged my room. So I moved my bed from right next to the window to right next to the fake fireplace.
Yeah.
So there was a fireplace downstairs, not one upstairs. So I just put it right next to that. That evening,
to the chimney portion.
That evening was the bad part of the hurricane from last year.
Yeah.
And a tree fell on my neighbor's roof. A branch fell on our roof, but it wasn't like, it was pretty big. It was pretty thick. It was about the size of Joshua. But
yeah,
it wasn't like the size of Shaq or something. The one on my neighbor's house was the size of Shaq. It was fucking huge. But they went up there,
sizes.
And when they took off the tree branch, they could see a giant hole that was about the size of a Subway footlong.
Yeah.
And I was like,
big enough that it needs to be fixed.
I was like, now do you believe me? So they had to take out the wall, and they had to take out the roof and the insulation. And I was like, so I stayed with Emily for a couple of days.
I don't blame you.
And I mean, it was, not that big of a deal, but I ended up putting myself in a hotel after the first night. But
because we love Em, but
I needed...
We'd like our peace and quiet.
I needed space. And I mean, I was totally fine with it. Okay, so what I have, I'm going through my research. It's now been solved.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, so it was a unsolved case, and now it is a solved case.
Love that.
Of course, you have research up the wazoo.
So what I just saw was tough enough to get a tattoo, too afraid to make a phone call. And I was like, why you gotta be so loud?
Oh, man. That's me.
Same, though.
So, are you ready for today?
Yeah, give me a second. Fucking Monopoly keeps giving me more dice.
Well, you can still do that. we're talking about a recently solved cold case.
Oh boy!
So
I sounded way too excited about that, but
so you and I
yay
both
for the being solved.
Yay!
Not
Yay!
for the cold case.
Let me so you and I both know that DNA kind of came into play in the early 2000s.
And also the like DNA forensics has come so far from when they first came out too.
So if we're talking about like DNA research and everything like that, like we have to kind of today we're discussing one that was solved more recently in 2019.
Okay.
So forensics has changed from the early 2000s till now. You and I both know that there are two countries that actually are ahead of the game as far as forensics goes in solving cold cases, which is Sweden and Germany. From our research. Yeah, so I get into some of that later, but not a lot of it. So,
okay.
The people who originally came out with the DNA type matching was Sweden, and then Germany has skyrocketed with a lot of the information. And now Sweden and Germany are like the forefront for science. I'm not laughing at that. So, okay. I should have just paused that because that's like a minute of just silence. So, so of course, with DNA research being as advanced as it is, they are finding, like, for instance, I found out for John Wayne Gacy, which we'll cover later, there's an update on the DNA. They were able to find one of the cousins of one of the victims. So they're still,
oh my God.
Yeah, they're still looking into that. Like, it's still really, really big. Like, but forensic DNA has come a long way. So obviously, we're not talking about Sweden or Germany because I wouldn't bring them up as talking points if we were talking about Sweden or Germany. We're going to be talking about Seattle, Washington.
Why is Seattle, Washington familiar?
I'm glad you asked. Home of the Seattle
God.
Center. Home to Seattle Center was always a civic gathering spot going all the way back to 1881 when a local saloon keeper, James Osborne, put down $20,000 or $616,029,000 today to build a civic hall for social gatherings on the site. Later, it would play host to sports facilities, a civic center, an armory, and by 1962, the iconic Space Needle, the monorail, built to wow visitors at the 1962 Seattle World's Fair. And I am going to pause it. I needed to go in the other room and get my butt pad. Because my butt hurts.
I'm laughing because I always forget what Josh's name is.
Oh, it's Mojo Jojo.
I know, and so it popped up on my screen, and that's why I started laughing. But also, I sent you a snap because just look at it.
Yeah, it's from you.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't go to Slim Chickens.
But I forgot that. And I was like, where the fuck did they go to Slim Chickens?
So
and I went, oh, wait.
I have a bag in my altar room that has, which is also my office, which is also our recording room, which is also our guest room, which is also the library. It's a little bit of everything. And there's a bag.
Hats.
It's a bag. And it says Slim Chickens on it. And it's where I have my hydrangeas and a couple of other stuff that I use for my work. And
I forgot that I gave that to her. So she got up to go in the other room, and I was like, where the hell they go to Slim Chicken? Oh, wait. And then it dawned on me.
Yeah, I went in my sleep. I decided to get in the car and just drive. So, the Seattle, Washington was like the huge center for the 1962 World's Fair. So, in the years following the fair, the center flourished. Seattle Center got its own repertory theater. Seattle Opera debuted in 1967. I can say debuted, but I can't say rural.
It's the R-U-R.
Am I what? Oh, the RUR in rural. I'm sorry.
We're not fully operating this morning in our brains.
Listen, I'm tired. We had a double feature last night, a double date night.
Oh,
We
that's awesome.
we saw Roadhouse and The Doorman, which was the one with the ruby rose in it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
So good, so good. So, Seattle debut, opera debut, 1967. The brand new NBA team for Seattle, the Supersonics, began to play in the neighborhood in the year 1967, which was also known as the year of the long hot summer, the year of the Beyond Vietnam
That sounds
speech.
like a romance novel.
It's the romance novel, a movie. It's also the name of a podcast. It's also the name of a series. Like, it's got a lot.
Shit, I was just joking.
No, I ended up finding this out for my research. The year of the Beyond Vietnam speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We love him. Alongside racial unrest in Detroit, Newark, and Cincinnati. This was the year of The Dirty Dozen, The Graduate, Cool Hand Luke, all huge box office hits. It was also the year of hippie culture, and young people flocked to San Francisco with their interests in Eastern religions, communal living, and immersive light shows. Jimi Hendrix,
Interesting.
Jimi Hendrix made his first appearance, and Aretha Franklin showed us respect. Which, did you know if you actually sing the respect song twice, that's the proper amount of hand washing time before you can go into the NICU?
I did. I
Um,
mean, it's also the proper amount of time you should be washing your hands, period.
yeah. So, July of 67 was positively oppressive in Seattle. The humid climate heightened unusually warm summer weather. The summer of love, to this day, is the warmest summer on record, including recently.
Really?
Yeah. Seattle, it was the hottest, depending on where you ask, of course. So, in 1967, in Seattle, Washington, the population was 1,404,000 people. The person we're talking
Oh,
about
wow.
today is Susan Marie Millar Galvin.
Okay.
Born December 31st, 1946, she was a Capricorn. I apologize for Capricorns out there.
Hey!
Capricorns are great people. We just go into. Where did I have it? I had it prepped. I had it. No, this isn't fair. I had it here. Oh, shit. It's over there. Honey, can I have my book? I'm sorry. I had everything on my table, and my book was here. Up there. Nope. In there. Up there. Thank you.
Because instead of just unhooking herself and walking across the room, she has him come from another room to get the book for her.
Yes. So Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, bringing with it energy of ambition and serious drive to succeed and success. Their earthly nature makes them responsible and demanding in any groups of which they participate. Good job.
Oh, thanks.
Capricorns need to lighten up periodically and not take themselves so seriously. They tend to take themselves too seriously and never know when to relax, take a break. And once they relaxed, those who know Capricorns can comment on how pragmatic and realistic they are.
We can't help it, though.
Yeah, but you guys are definitely very unbiased about your.
Oh, yes, we try. We try our best.
Oh, yeah. But I had the book, and I had 3 books on my table yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and they all managed to go in different rooms. Did I put them there?
Was it Frank?
No, it was not. Frank is not here. It's probably his mother. So she's a Capricorn. She was born in Bedford, Massachusetts. If you haven't gone, go there. It's beautiful. It's a tiny little sleepy town. Her parents were Helen Galvin and Lorimir Galvin.
Interesting.
Susan was the oldest of 7. She had 2 sisters, Arlene and Patricia, and 4 brothers, Larry, Michael, Christopher, and David.
I really want to make a joke about Larry, Curly, and Moe, but
Let's not.
Yeah.
So she had a seemingly normal life. Her family moved to Spokane. It's not Spokane, it's Spokane, guys. Whereas she decided to move to Seattle after a year of living in Spokane. From all accounts, it states that she was a sweet young woman. She loved socializing with people, and she worked at the Seattle Center. So Seattle Center is kind of like the Retrodrome. You know, it's kind of like where they have all the sports stuff.
Okay.
So her photo albums were brimming with photos of Susan in the shadow of the Space Needle. She loved life in the neighborhood. But on June 9th of 67, she was set to work her Sunday shift at midnight, working as a clerk in the records department for the local police station. She worked for cops.
But working for cops doesn't always save you.
No. We don't know what exactly was said in the office that night because most of the people in the story are no longer with us.
Of course.
We just know that Susan's coworkers put her down for a vacation that night. As to why she no-showed.
Instead of trying to find out.
Yeah. You probably can imagine what they talked about. Without a single brain cell, they marked down a vacation day for Susan and went about their workday. So I wrote, what if they stopped and went looking instead? Mind you, this was before cell phones and tracking apps like Life 360, but still.
Yeah. If they had just looked into it, they would have might have found her.
I mean, you and 6 other people have my location.
Oh, yeah.
If I am not at home, people become concerned.
I mean, we become concerned when you don't answer.
Look,
so,
unless it's at night, in which case.
Yes. But that's entirely different.
However, for someone who never missed a single shift, even when sick, she failed to show up to work.
And nobody
noticed.
Tried to find out.
I tell you, it's fine.
Does he know how to be anything else?
Oh, aside from a butthead? No.
Exactly.
He's my butthead. He's my butthead.
I never said he wasn't. I was just saying. Does he know how to be anything else but a butthead? No.
So Susan never missed a shift, but she failed to show up to work. Nobody ever found that concerning. Next
shift,
day.
Not ship.
Shift.
Oh, I heard shit, so.
No! I'm not talking about her bowel movements.
I mean, she might never miss one of those either. I don't know. I was just saying what I heard.
She could have been like Sheldon and had scheduled bowel movements at certain times of day. I don't. So, the next day, Susan had not communicated with anyone, and an investigation soon followed suit. But when 2 days had gone without any signs of Susan, a few questions came to mind with the police. What happened? Where had she gone? And she had only been working for the Seattle Police Department for less than a year, but she wasn't known as the kind of person who would just take off without saying something to someone.
Right.
So, there's not a lot of history on Susan aside from eyewitness testimonies and conversations had with her coworkers. She was nice, she got along great with people, etc. But what is known is that she disappeared into thin air. On Thursday, this is after about 4 or 5 days.
By this point, she's gone.
They had finally found Susan. So, they found Susan's body in an elevator in the parking garage at the 300 Mercer Street, Seattle Center.
Ugh.
The garage would close on Sunday night and remain closed all week until Thursday night and reopen for the weekend, which is a lot of times what happens in these large cities. So,
yeah,
when I lived in California, my car, this was back before they increased patrol in that area when I was living out of my car.
Mm-hmm.
I slept at the Shark Tank because my friend at the time was a security guard. She would let me in Sunday night at around 2 a.m. I would park my car there and I would have one of those permit stickers or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would just put up the covering.
Curtains.
Yeah, so it just looked like somebody had just left their car there and sunshades and whatever. They would reopen it Thursday morning. So I had 6 days that my car was safe in that parking lot. And I could
Right.
walk in and out of that parking garage. Nobody would know. But we're talking about Susan. So it was closed all week, opened Thursday night, and Susan had been essayed and strangled or smothered, but the record isn't clear. She was left to die in the elevator on Sunday night, but her body wasn't discovered until maintenance reopened the garage on Thursday. Because when you reopen it, you unlock the elevators, and the elevators automatically open when you unlock them.
Mm-hmm.
So the Spokane Chronicle reported on July 14th, headline, 2 sailors held in girl's death. Which, this is what was written. 2 Navy sailors were questioned today in Seattle in connection with the slaying of 20-year-old police department records clerk. The body of Susan Galvin, formerly of Spokane, was locked in an elevator. I can speak. Was locked in an elevator at Seattle Center Garage yesterday evening, the Associated Press reported. The coroner said Miss Galvin had been suffocated by an unknown object. Police said she had apparently been dead since Sunday night. The 2 sailors reportedly had been seen with Miss Galvin and another woman on Sunday. Funeral services will be held in Spokane. So the headline was not proved accurate.
Of course not.
They said that the men were held. They were simply questioned.
They weren't.
Yeah, they weren't held. They were questioned. Law enforcement had nothing to hold them. 0 evidence. Just eyewitness reports put Susan and her friend with 2 sailors. But they did turn their attention to somebody else.
Okay.
So, who was a prevalent serial killer at this point in 67?
I know I covered him, but I can't recall at this point in time.
Gacy.
Yes.
So, he was in the late 60s, early 70s.
But I thought he was in the Chicago area.
He was in the Chicago area, but I was just saying who was another time.
Oh, okay.
So, in Seattle, there was a guy in that area known to everyone in the area as Punchy the Clown. The old armory had been rebranded as Food Circus, and Susan had been seen hanging around with the man employed there as a professional clown by the name of Punchy the Clown. A witness in Seattle Center suggested that the police might want to question him. They did, but they had an immediate problem. The man who portrayed Punchy the Clown quit his job and left town shortly after she was murdered.
Because of course he did.
So the reason I asked about who was prevalent, hold on. I'm dying. The trees are fucking. Excuse me. Is because every true crime follower knows about John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
That was in his house in Wisconsin. Chicago, where he was born. Wisconsin was where he. Yeah. In recent years, clowns have had a rough go of it. They've had a bit of bad history. Batch videos started popping up in 2013 with scary clowns showing up in the street, unexplained places. By 2016, scary clowns have been sighted in every state in the U.S., most of Canada, and 18 other countries. According to Chapman University, 8% of Americans suffer from fear of clowns, also known as colorophobia.
Me included, guys.
I don't particularly like clowns, but I don't have a fear of clowns. I used to.
Same.
But
I'm a little bit better now, but I avoid them if ever possible. I don't like mimes or clowns.
Oh yeah, no. Fuck mimes. When you look at it, Punchy was the last person to be seen with Susan, so he's the most likely.
Yeah.
There was no suspicion based on his choice of profession like we so commonly encounter today. The police wanted to talk to the man under the makeup because he was recently seen under the company of Susan. It was just
right.
Good police work, right? So, although they had a lot in the investigation, the police work was short and unproductive.
Unfortunately.
So some naturally saw the clown as a prime suspect. The police were unable to come up with anything that implicated him in the murder of Susan.
Okay.
Dozens of people were questioned, Punchy just being one potential subject out of dozens of people. But he did suspiciously quit his job and leave.
That's interesting.
He was never charged because they didn't really have any evidence to link him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, his departure from Seattle so soon after her death did look suspicious. There was nothing more than just suspicion. No evidence or anything could actually give them means to arrest. So, at this point, not only did witnesses know nothing, the public knew nothing, the cops knew nothing. So, her case was cold for 52 years.
Jesus.
So, the actual suspect was a married man of 26 years old, with a young child in the house. By 1969, authorities continued to search for a break in the murder of Susan. The killer, we later found out, was Frank Wypich. He and his wife had a second... Yeah, I'll get there. The name doesn't really sound that familiar, right?
No, it kind of does.
Okay. So, he and his wife had a second child. They lived in the Seattle area, so if the story of Susan's unsolved murder showed up in the local papers, he surely saw it. Side note. Like, this is old research, right? I wrote this one side note. I have to be blunt, while I was deep in researching the story, I was surprised by how little coverage her disappearance and subsequent murder got in the Seattle area. Even though only a little time has passed, let alone any history on her after the fact, it took me hours, days, to find anything of note.
Right.
Thank goodness to some diligent crime detectives we got out here, possums, because we hit the jackpot with a radio station and news outlet, and almost 50 years after the fact. 2 podcast transcripts, 4 news articles, and a So, back to the murderer. 1971, the killer and his wife divorced. That same year, he was arrested for larceny, and he spent 9 months behind bars.
Interesting.
Did police miss an opportunity to make the case and keep him locked up?
Probably.
Because of today's technology, his fingerprints would have been entered along with his DNA, and a link would have been made. But since it was 71, they didn't really have the forensics at that time.
Right.
Aside from DNA profiles.
The technology wasn't existing yet.
Right. So we didn't know if the police had fingerprint evidence in Susan's murder or DNA, or if the killer was even fingerprinted when he went to jail in 71. But no fingerprint match was made. And after 9 months, the man was released from jail, and police still had no idea he murdered Susan 5 years earlier.
Right, because DNA.
Yep. So in 75, Frank was charged with a weapons offense. The details in the paperwork are actually barely there if you look up the actual report on him.
Okay.
But relatives have said that there was more to it than just a basic weapons report. Years later, Detective Rolf Norton, try that for a name, he was in fact arrested, dressed in a security guard uniform with a firearm, making traffic stops on people. So, of course, he was
I don't like that.
Picked up for impersonating a police officer. There are multiple serial killers who have done that.
Too fucking many.
So, if you know true crime at all, you know this is a common phenomena. Killers who have fascination with law enforcement and authority. John E. Douglas, retired FBI agent, who is partly the inspiration for Netflix's series Mindhunter, said if they could pick a job, a cop always comes out as the top profession they would like. Ed Kemper and Dave Berkowitz both expressed an interest in being a cop. Golden State Killer Joseph D'Angelo was a cop. Ted Bundy pretended to be a cop. One of the Hillside Stranglers, because there were 3, pretended to be a cop as well. So, not only was the suspect arrested twice for other things, and even served time, nobody had identified him as Susan's killer. And this was a big point of contention for a lot of the articles I read and the podcasts I listened to and a couple of the different blog spots that I looked up. Reason being is because you and I both are science nerds.
Yes.
DNA technology did not become huge until the late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
And at that point, it was still in its infancy. So,
yeah.
76, they weren't even, connecting the dots, as it were, when it came to forensics.
Well, and especially because it was so expensive getting the new stuff, a lot of the departments didn't have the funds to get the upgrades.
Right.
And so because of that, so many of the small town places didn't have it.
So you remember we talked about Punchy?
Yes.
So the police believe they had the killer's genetic material on her actual clothes. So in 2016, they tracked down the man who was Punchy the Clown.
Oh, nice.
He was living in...
Yay, DNA.
Yay, DNA. We love that. But he was living in Utah at the time. Many believed that this was their chance to actually catch her killer. That this was it. He was it.
Right.
They took his DNA. And it didn't match.
Of course it didn't.
So, starting with a blank slate in 2018, officers submitted the found DNA into the Parabon Nano Lab. So, this is one of the labs that's state, countrywide, transcontinentally. These are all of the DNA profiles in the system. This is the lab in which today is responsible for providing genealogical family tree data to solve a bunch of high-profile cold cases. So, when you send in your DNA to like 23andMe?
Yeah.
So, Ancestry? 23andMe?
Speaking of which, I need to do my Ancestry thing. Remind me later to do that.
I will remind you. So, I sent mine in, and I found out that one of my cousins was a convict. And that's why we never talked to his side of the family.
And you're like, oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. And they, I ended up getting, a message on Ancestry saying, do you know who this person is? And I was like, no, I don't. We never got to hang out with him because he was a bad, bad man. So, genealogist C.C. Moore analyzed the DNA for genealogical matches and came up with 2 people that were related to the actual killer themselves. Distant relatives who lived a very long time ago. Cece was able to trace the family trees to a man born in Kentucky in 1828 and a woman born in Missouri of 1837 to their descendant, a killer with their DNA in his body. Side note, he was related to both of them, of course. Yeah. So, detective came back stating he had hits from 2 distant cousins related to our offender. Those cousins were related to each other. With that information, she was able to start work on a family tree and develop ancestral links to who the suspect was.
Oh, nice.
So, of course, it's been 50 years at this point. There's going to be good news and bad news. The good news, the police were able to find a suspect. What do you think the bad news?
Bad news? Guy was dead.
Yep.
Of course.
That sucks.
I wouldn't so much say it's bad news, but it's also kind of good news because we found the person, but we also kind of have to get to save money because we don't have to go through a trial.
Right, but they still had to dig up his body.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They got a search warrant, exhumed the man's body, and took a sample of his DNA. It was an exact match.
Oh, good.
So, Frank Wypitch murdered Susan. So,
sad.
We're just going to keep his name as Frank.
Not to be confused with your Frank.
Not at all. No. I mean, well, we could give him a new name.
I was about to say, your Frank just likes to pull pranks.
He does. He also likes to fuck with people's water. Francis. His name is Francis, but I call him Frank. Fred. Drop Dead Fred.
Okay.
Fred. So Fred was a former military man who, other than the jail sentence for larceny in 1971 and pretending to be a cop in 75, kept clear of the law. While he was alive, he was never charged with any other offenses of a sexual nature. At least we know.
Interesting. That we know of.
Frank died of a diabetes-related complication in 1987.
I hope it was extremely painful.
I hope he had diabetic toes. I hope he went into a diabetic coma and then got diabetic toes and then died. Diabetic toes are painful.
Oh, yes. Which is why I cackled.
So when he was 26, he murdered Susan in 1967, which means he would have been 46 when he died. So Fred would have been 78 years old in 2019 when police discovered he was Susan's killer. The average lifespan for American males is 78.6 years. If Wypich would have lived an average lifespan, he would have still been alive at the moment of truth, and Susan and her family would have finally gotten justice. Which is the whole reason why we do this.
Right.
We want justice. With the murderer dead, we're left with slight satisfaction. Fred never faced justice for what he did to Susan and never saw the inside of a jail cell for her murder. We really don't even know for certain the circumstances of Susan's murder. So,
lots of unanswered questions.
Right, because a lot of the witnesses didn't know anything that happened when she went in there.
It was just, this was the last thing they saw, but after that, it's unknown.
Right. In 2019, KIRO 7 News in Seattle reported Fred had been employed as a security guard, and he may have worked at the Seattle Center.
Which would explain him having a key.
Right. This is yet to be confirmed, but if it's true, this makes for an actual scary scenario.
Right.
Susan, as a police employment, had a healthy respect for authority, meets with a uniformed security guard at Seattle Center. How did they cross paths? Why did they start talking? How did they start talking? Was he nice? Was she nice? Did she drop her guard because he was in a security uniform? What did she say in those final moments? What did he say? These are all questions that I had that unfortunately I don't think will ever be answered.
No.
And this is one of the things that I hate, you know?
Same.
Although no one really knows what happened that night aside from Fred and Susan. What we know is that she was SA'd and murdered in the elevator with no chance of escape. Despite waiting 52 years for answers and the death of nearly everyone involved in the case, Susan's murder was solved, and Seattle police staged a press conference to make the announcement. Chief Carmen Best credited Detective Rolf Norton with solving the case, but none of the original detectives were still alive to hear the announcement.
And they had to take that case to the grave because the fact that it was one of the unsolved cases.
Yep. In a way, this was noted as heartwarming. The men and women who originally investigated this case are no longer with us, but another generation of Seattle detectives picked up their torch and continued investigating on their behalf.
Which I like.
Too many times, when a lead investigator dies or retires, progress on the case disappears.
Right. It just stops.
Right.
Because nobody wants to pick it up.
Even though Fred never faced justice, these investigators deserve to be commended because they never gave up.
Yeah.
So Detective Norton said, "I think everyone who worked on this case thought a lot about Susan and was hopeful we would come to an end. We're not going to be able to punish him with incarceration, but history will hold him accountable. We know he was a murderer, and that will be his defining moment. His defining characteristic is that he was a murderer."
Yeah.
Susan's case, as of 2020, is the oldest cold case yet to be solved with forensic genealogy.
Love that.
So even though it took 52 years to identify our killer, a lot of questions still remain with the police department.
Right.
Investigators are now looking into whether he may have killed anyone else while stationed in New York, Alaska, and Germany while in the Army.
I mean, it's good questioning.
So, of course, I did some background research on genealogy databases.
As we do.
Because, once you go down a rabbit hole, you can't.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You can't stop. So, of course, genealogy databases, which contain information from people, have been obtained for their DNA profiles for companies like 23andMe, Ancestry, Genealogy, what is it?
All the things.
Honey, what? Genome Link. Genome Link is another one. They have become a powerful police tool in the past couple of years, since investigators in California revealed they used the method to identify and arrest the Golden State Killer, Joseph DeAngelo, which we are covering later.
Right. But it's also great because the fact that, everybody is willing to give their DNA to this as long as they have a court order.
Right.
Like, and a warrant, these companies are willing to work with them.
Well, it's in their terms and conditions.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Even better.
I know. People don't actually read the terms and conditions. And so when I was putting it through...
And that's usually what gets them every time.
Right. So when I was putting it through on Ancestry, I really wanted to find out how Italian I really was, because
right,
my grandfather was Italian, my grandmother was San Salvadorian. My father's side is all white, just very Caucasic. I was like, I need to find out. Like, I have to know. And down there in the terms and conditions, it states that it will be put in a central database for DNA profiling. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not going to commit murder. I'm not dumb.
Right. You're like, it's like when I have to get like my fingerprints done for something. I'm like, okay, I have nothing to tie. Here's my fingerprints.
Right. So, of course, Joseph DeAngelo was a former cop, and he was accused of having murdered at least a dozen people and raped 50 in the 70s and 80s.
Jesus.
More than 60 cases have been solved in just the beginning of 2019 alone.
Love that, though.
So, 2 other cases have been solved in the beginning of May 19. San Diego police announced Monday that the FBI's forensic genetic genealogy, not geology, it's not rocks.
I mean, it might be. It's after a while, it turns to rocks.
They helped identify and arrest a serial rapist whose crimes date back to 94.
Oh, wow.
And police in Terre Haute, Indiana, said it solved the killing of a 19-year-old woman on a campus of Indiana State University in 72.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right. So, like Fred, the suspect was long dead.
Crime. The guys, when I say it's really cool, I'm not talking about the crime. I'm talking about the solving of the case.
Right. So, like Fred, the suspect is long dead. He was shot by a deputy who saw him trying to abduct a woman in 78.
Oh, wow.
So, there has been some controversial statements, even though it's in the terms and conditions itself. Privacy...
Because people don't usually read the terms and conditions until it blows up in their face.
Well, like Disney Plus. You hear about that guy that died at the restaurant, right?
When all he had to do was, when making the reservation, be like, hey, I have these allergies. Like, they make it so friendly for allergists.
They do.
For people with allergies. Like, you just have to let them know, and they will prepare things without those ingredients.
Off topic. I went to California Adventure. My mom had everything planned for Mother's Day weekend for my birthday, my cousin's birthday, and Mother's Day, right?
Yeah.
She goes, are you really allergic to latex? And I said, yes. And she goes, good, I needed to know that. She put it on her reservation that I was severely allergic to latex, because I am. You've seen my breakouts.
Yes.
When I was painting the furniture, my arms, everything covered.
And that was just being around the fumes of it.
Yeah, and it was so bad. My whole body broke out. I had to take a break for 2 days. I had to douse myself in Child's Benadryl, like the lotion. I had a sticker put on my drink cup So that way when the servers came around, they knew my food could not be touched with latex gloves. The bread could not be touched. The cups could not be touched. Everything on our table was latex free. It took a little longer, but
much rather you take it a little bit longer to make sure that it's 100% safe.
And so they put my dessert down, and then the woman came by and picked up my dessert and walked away with it. And I was like, I wanted that. And she goes, no. You want one that won't kill you. And I was like, thank you.
Yes, please. I would love to have a lovely dessert that would not kill me.
So, guys, if you just know that, like, if you speak up about your allergies, they're more than willing to work with it.
Right.
So, of course, privacy advocates have been hounding databases because of this. So, American Civil Liberties Union have expressed concern over the use of public DNA databases in police investigations. They argue by posting DNA profiles to public sites, people are posting information about close and even distant relatives with potentially serious implications for privacy rights. I'm fine with it. If it catches somebody, like I didn't know that my fourth cousin once removed was what he was, and I'm very glad that they caught him.
Exactly.
We still don't speak to that side of the family, but still. And I'm not talking about Jesus, I'm talking about the other side. Of course, Cece, who we talked about earlier, she ran the suspect's DNA, and she came up with 2 distant cousins, people who shared less than about 2% of the killer's DNA.
Right.
And a handful of people who were like scarcely related. She saw surname patterns suggesting Polish ancestry and suspect the DNA's profile is predicted to be about 16% native.
Interesting.
She worked her way backward using those clues and eventually found a couple, a man born in 1828 in Kentucky and a woman born in Missouri in 1837, from whom both the distant cousins were descended.
Interesting.
So she then followed the generations forward from the ancestral couple and found out that Fred was born in Seattle and would have been 26 at the time of the killing. So Susan,
all right, then,
who had left her home in Spokane a year before, according to a statement from one of her brothers, Lorimer, or Larry. Oh, Larry. He now lives in Florida. He thanked Detective Rolf Norton, who began investigating the case in 2016. This is straight from Larry. 52 years later, we learn who, but still have no clear understanding as to why. There will always be that lingering question. Fred was married and a father of a young child with a second child born 2 years later. Him and his wife divorced in 1971, and he was convicted of larceny, his only criminal investigation. He served 9 months in jail and was arrested in 1975. So he was pretty angry, which understandably so.
Oh, yeah.
So the department said it no longer had records of that offense, but relatives told investigators he had been impersonating a police officer and making traffic stops in uniform, armed with a gun.
The fuck?
Wypitch's children cooperated with the investigation, though they were stunned to learn about her killing. Detective Norton said the original detectives on the case remain alive through this case. It's really a credit to everyone involved back then. So, as of now, Susan's case stands as the oldest case solved through forensic genealogy, which we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still going through those case files. It's been a couple of years, but they're still going through the case files of where he was stationed back then, because it's going to take a while.
Right. Especially because having to get through all the red tape with the military and everything.
So this begs the question, a few things. How far back can forensic genealogy trace?
Considering that Dr. Sister has tracked down all the way back to the 1600s.
Us too.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Like it goes back, you can go back like extremely far on it.
I found out that I'm 17% indigenous. What was
Love
it?
that.
4 or 5 years ago I found out about that, and I started to really like delve into that sort of aspect of my life, because I'm like, I know I'm not 100% white,
Right.
because I mean, you've seen me. But it begs to question, like, what about all those other missing people? And of course, through my research that I did, they're still looking into people for um, Ted Bundy, Gacy, a bunch of other people. And we talked about it on the Texas episode, The Killing Fields. Genealogy has been able to find out who 2 of the victims are.
Right.
And then also genealogy was used for the upstate New York killer, the one that they did the documentary that you told me to watch. Oh, God. The one with the escorts.
Shit.
You remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it though.
But they're using genealogy and DNA databases to be able to find those people and to find their family, and they've been able to find them because of DNA databases like Ancestry.com. And
exactly.
I mean, if it wasn't for those DNA databases, I wouldn't have been able to make contact with my new cousins.
Right.
And find out that I really do have family down in South America. And I was super flabbergasted about this, because I was like, that's so fucking cool.
Right.
They're indigenous. Like, how cool is that? Of course, I look white compared to them because they are like deep brown. But
well, it's also because, you've been deluded.
I am deluded.
Not delusional, deluded.
Oh yeah. No, I'm delulu.
It's because the white colonialism blood diluted yours a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, I still, like, my arms are like super tan. They don't look like it here, but
everywhere else it doesn't see the sunlight.
Is reflective as hell. My husband,
yes.
Juanito, on the other hand, absolutely gorgeous man. I love my husband. He's beautiful. He's the embodiment of handsomeness. Is tanner than I am.
He also spends so much time outside, though.
Okay, look, I don't like the sun. It's a giant Death Star.
It is, but I'm just saying, like, he works outside for a living, so I mean, he's going to be more.
He works hard for the money.
He does that too. I was going to say that. Guess who works outside all day, every day?
Right. He does have the farmer tan, though. So he's got, like,
100%.
Because, yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's going to happen because the parts of him that do not see the sun they're less reflective than you are, but they're still reflective.
Oh, they're very reflective. But again, I mean, with genealogy the way that it is, and with DNA the way that it is now, we're able to close more cases.
Exactly.
I'm very happy because originally when I did research Susan Galvin, it was in 2017. So it was still a cold case, because we had to do a cold case file for our science class for DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do a case on DNA. Somebody else in the class did Donner Party.
Oh, Jesus.
Because they were still finding relatives to the skeletons and the bones that they found in Donner Pass. Because, that was
an
archival archaeological study.
The snow preserved them.
They did. And I mean, like, oh man, like, DNA's definitely come a long way, though.
I mean, recently, they were doing, where it was like Jamestown, I think. They were doing some digging.
Jonestown.
And they recently, was it
Jonestown, which has been requested. was the
not
massacre.
Jonestown. It was here in the States. They recently did digging, and they found out that they found like 2 different bodies.
Oh, Jamestown. Yeah.
Was it Jamestown?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was Jamestown.
And so they were able to, through DNA and, genealogy, they were able to trace back who exactly it was and figure out like why one was buried with all these honors and the other one not so much, but still had honors. And so it's insane.
Oh yeah. And I mean, what's funny is I actually got into an argument with somebody once because I was doing research for, I've gotten into loads of arguments with people, but that's the point.
I was about to say that's different as to normal times.
So I was doing research on this Nordic ceremony that I had, for this DNA class that I was taking. And I hated this class with a passion, but it was because of all the research I had to do. It was exhausting. The teacher was great. The teacher was fantastic. I learned a lot. But besides the point, there was this guy in the class who said, and of course it's become a meme since then, but like,
of course,
women were meant to be seen and not heard and all this other stuff. He was very much like, alpha male bullshit. I hated it, and so my teacher made this huge sign in the class, and she had shown how women were in Norse culture, Scandinavian culture, and she showed burial sites where the men had some honors, but it was the women who were born with the gold and all of the...
Oh, yes.
And so she showed the burial sites, and she asked all the men in the class which one was male and which one was female. Not even showing the pelvic bone.
Right.
Which was how we knew bones were male or female.
The difference. Yeah.
And the guys were like, oh yeah, that's definitely a guy. That's definitely a guy. And I'm looking at it and I was like...
Joke's on them.
She has earrings on. Like, in here, you can see there's earrings. No. Those are bracelets. By her ears?
Okay.
Unless she's, like, sleeping like this. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not. And they got their asses handed to them, and she was just like, so if you guys wanted to go back to the way that things were in Nordic days, absolutely, we can definitely do that. So your wife is to command the household. She is to handle the money.
Run the finances.
Right. And if she finds out that you've cheated on her, she is to take your penis and hang it above her door frame as an offer. At that point, the guys just kind of shut up in the class, and they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to be quiet.
And she also has every right to divorce you.
Oh, yeah. 100%. But, I mean, I just found that class, like, super funny. I loved it. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Learned a lot. I also learned a lot about, like, genetics and stuff like that. Like, a lot of the stuff that everybody's like, oh, no, that's genetic. It's not. So, like, my height is genetic. My weight is genetic because of my metabolism. So, my mom has a super slow metabolism. My dad has a super slow metabolism, which makes me super slow. My mom has dark brown eyes. My dad has blue eyes, gray eyes almost, which made me have hazel eyes.
Right.
Both my brothers, asshole brother has dark brown eyes. Non-asshole brother has light blue eyes. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, I love genealogical research, but, totally scroll holing, getting off topic. So.
Just a little bit.
It
was kind of on topic, but.
Kind of on topic. But, I mean, as far as cold cases go, we have 4 cold cases that we're going to cover because they were requested. There is news on Rachel's case, but we're not allowed to discuss it or disclose it. If you have yet, if you have not listened to that episode, please do share it with your friends, get the word out there. If you want us to cover a missing persons case or have a missing persons case or a cold case you want us to cover, which we do deep dive and we do get some answers, please let us know.
Shoot us an email.
Shoot us an email. Our email is tpw3mpodcast@gmail.com. As always, stay feral.
Bite the hand, guys.
And we'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye!
Okay, bye!
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches.
He was known as the Butcher of Plainfield and the Plainfield Ghoul. He's an American murderer, suspected serial killer, and body snatcher. His crimes gathered widespread notoriety in 1957 after authorities discovered he had exhumed bodies from the local graveyards and fashioned keepsakes from their bones and skin.
Yep.
Yes, but do you know what he did?
Yes, but we're not going to talk about this today. We're talking about a different cannibal.
I mean, psychiatric institutions at that time were insane as they were.
Right.
You have something wrong with your head. Lobotomy. You have something wrong with your head. Electroshock therapy.